All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Boston Boys Sports Podcast. Happy New Year, everybody. It is 2025, and it's been a minute for us between the holidays and everyone getting sick, but we are back now. I am, of course, Eli Horrigan, one of your hosts. I'm here with the beard, Kiefer Bontos, best in the business. Kiefer, what's up, my guy?
Oh, flowing high right now with that Penn State win going to that right before the championship game, buddy. So we'll take it up on that one.
I mean, I do know how you feel because Michigan won it last year. I'm riding a high myself, just beating Alabama, even though it was a crap game down in Tampa. But thank God it was raining how it was because it was a nightmare for Jalen Milroe and the Tide in the first. But in any event, I want to mention we are partnered with Jones and for Sports. We make sports better. Check them out on X. Check them out on Instagram. Check them out on YouTube. They're putting out great content every single day, as are we at Hub Boys Sports. Check us out on X. You'll always be interacting with Steve, and he will get under your skin like nobody else. We wish he was here with us. But the first thing I want to jump in and talk about right now is the big babies. Not this big baby. Oh, what's going on, girl?
Say hi, everybody.
The big babies, Devon Godchow and Jelani Tavai. Because I have to get this. This has been driving me crazy since I seen these guys. The Fire Mayo chance, and then Tavai, this dummy. You're a blockhead. You come out with this like, well, I don't go to your job and boo you. This is a comedy skit from a Seinfeld episode where Jerry gets heckled on stage and he shows up at Kramer's girlfriend's office and she runs outside and loses her tail. You know why you don't get to boo me at work, Jelani Tavai? Because nobody will pay money to sit and watch me work. But if you want to pay me $200 to sit next to me at work, and if you think I do a bad job, you can boo me, feel free because I'll take the ticket revenue. You dope. People often think of these athletes as not bright guys, right? Like, oh, they're really good at something. He is living proof of that. You can hit people for a living, which you're like a modern day gladiator. People pay to watch you. So if you don't perform and you stink, you are going to get booed. And yes, maybe it's not Mayo's fault because Mayo wasn't ready. It's like asking a second year med student to perform like a heart surgery and he fails. And then people are shocked that this kid couldn't do heart surgery. Like Mayo wasn't ready to be a head coach. It ultimately falls on Kraft, but sorry, the fans are allowed to say and do what they want at that game. They paid their hard-earned money so you can make $1 million to entertain us. So stop being a baby. You get booed when you don't perform.
Absolutely. So I was listening to 93.7 the other day, and people were calling in complaining about him doing that stuff on the side. And they were like, we might as well just get rid of our season tickets. Like, what's the point? If we can't have an opinion on how we feel about what's going on right now, why should we even go to the games for you guys? And you look at it and you're like, well, you're kind of right. You have an opinion as a fan to say and do what you want in those stands. Players should not be getting upset when you're 3-13 or whatever you are. And it's ridiculous. You shouldn't be yelling at fans because they're upset with the product that they're watching weekly.
Especially when they're paying to sit there. Like, if you can't hack it, go somewhere else, man. Like, this is you can't sit there after and and he doubles down and says, like, if you're going to be there, come there and support us. That's not what being a fan is. Being a fan isn't showing blind support to a team even when they're terrible. I boo because I pay money, right? And fans pay money to go see you, and then they sit there and watch a crap performance. So why would they not boo you? I just paid money, I get to boo. These guys don't realize you're not doing some like service to us by letting us watch you play. People are paying. You're making millions of dollars to perform for us. You're a modern day gladiator. That's what you are. When people said to LeBron, shut up and dribble, this isn't because we don't think you're an intelligent guy, though most people probably don't think he's an ultimately intelligent guy. The bottom line is I don't pay to listen to you. Like, just play basketball. That's what I was there to watch. Just go play good football. That's what I want to see. If you don't play good football, I'm going to boo. I'm not going to blindly support you. Like, I don't care what you have to say. You are a gladiator to me.
And the fact that they let up 40 points last game and the defense didn't show up at all, he had no right to yell anything at all. If your defense is letting up 40 points a game, then sorry, buddy, you're in the wrong here.
Yeah. What has Jelani Tavai done in his career to think he is like, he's the guy to say, like, you don't say that to us. You're not
Yeah,
a Pro Bowler.
yeah,
You're
he's
not an
not
all
he's
pro.
not Miles he's not Miles Garrett. He's not like Raekwon Smith. He's not a top tier player in the NFL.
Yeah.
He's not.
No, and Miles Garrett has been in the slums of the NFL for years. Cleveland, like they had a small window where they were halfway decent. Other than that, this guy has performed for the crowd admirably. So let me tell you something. If the Cleveland crowd starts booing, I'm pretty sure Miles Garrett knows it's not at me. I listen. The guy's got over 100 sacks already in his career. They're not booing Miles Garrett. They're booing the product. This isn't a personal boo against Jelani Tavai and Devon Godchow. But guess what? You're a huge product. You give up 40 points and you say, don't boo me. How about get thicker skin? How about get better at your job? If I performed the way the Patriots performed, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have a job.
No, I wouldn't have. I would have been let go weeks ago.
Yeah.
Weeks ago.
And you don't have some guaranteed contract where you say, okay, you can fire me. I'm still making $900,000 or whatever his guaranteed money is. I get fired. If I don't perform and I get fired, I don't have a job. Okay. But no one's going to pay to watch me do my job unless somebody wants to pay us to do a podcast, which would be fantastic. But the bottom line is get better at your job. You can't be a 3-win team and then get sensitive after giving up 40 points and say, well, if you want to be a fan, you have to support me. No, I don't. I'm an actual fan, and I can tell the difference between good and bad. And when you're bad, I still support the team, right? I still watch every week, but I'm going to voice my opinion.
Yeah, we've been saying this how bad the product has been all year, and when Drake May came in, it started getting a little better, but it doesn't help the fact that the coaching is awful. Mayo, I was talking about the scenario at work the other day. I wouldn't even mind keeping Mayo and making him the D coordinator and just leaving him at that position and bringing in a real head coach and a real OC, because at least he's going to get more experience as the D coordinator, like fully be it him. But he can't be a head coach right now. He wasn't ready for it. And to give a guy that wasn't ready for it this team just makes you look that much worse. So it's a tough situation.
I agree with you because I'm like, I still want them to fire him. I don't want to, like, I think they just need to gut everything right now. That's where I'm at. Like, bring in a new regime, and I'm fine with that. But I don't blame Mayo. It's like the analogy I said. You can't take a kid who's in med school and say, go perform surgery, because he doesn't know how to do that. And that's what you did. You gave Gerard Mayo, you promised him a job he wasn't ready for. You gave it to him. And Bill Belichick, 100%, Steve has said it before, like, he sabotaged this organization, and sabotaged it in the sense that Bill had total control of a lot of things. He had total control of who was on his roster. He had total control of coaching. He had total control. Like, so Bill, the guy, is doing 10 different jobs, we'll say, right? So then when he leaves, you have to fill 10 different positions because one guy was hoarding it all. So now you're putting people into places that aren't really ready for it. It's not like Bill was like, oh, these are my last years, I'm going to train people up. No, he's a spiteful guy too. He doesn't want someone to take his position. It was like Tom Brady when they drafted Garoppolo. It's like, I'm not your friend. You're trying to take my job. I have no interest in that. So Bill Belichick, when he left a big hole in this whole organization in multiple spots, and you just backfilled it with guys who weren't ready for stuff. So too bad, so sad. I'm sorry, Gerard Mayo, great Patriot. I loved him as a linebacker, but I would say go make your bones somewhere else in the NFL, or go to college, go to the college ranks. Maybe Bill will take you at UNC, teach you how to coach. He's not ready, but I don't blame him for the season. I 100% blame Robert Kraft for the season.
I blame Robert Kraft too, and it's he wasn't he was doing what Bill did. He was picking favorites on who he was picking for coaches,
Yeah.
and you had the chance last year to go get Vrabel. He was available. No one was picking him up. He needed a year. He needed a year off. You could have went and got him if you were going to go the defensive head coach route anyway. At least he had head coaching experience, and he had decent teams in Tennessee up until the last couple of years when they started getting rid of everybody, and eventually it just dwindled down for him. So It's just I'm on the board with getting rid of the whole regime, get rid of everybody, start going people. But then you hear coaches that are going to be available, and some of them are all being picky now. Like, oh, I don't need to leave my situation. I'm in a great situation. Ben Johnson being one of them. If I
Yeah.
don't like the offers I'm getting, I don't have to leave. I'm with the Detroit Lions, who is one of the best teams in the NFL now. Why
Yeah.
do I have to leave them and ruin my career if the coaching position isn't going to be right for me?
I think the struggle for the Patriots is going to be, and this is what they should be doing. They're not going to. I'm 100% convinced they're keeping Gerard Mayo. They're keeping if they fire anyone, it'll be Van Pelt. They'll make him the martyr for this and just say like he's gone. It was his fault. You know what I mean? And then they'll move on. But what they should be doing is cleaning house the crafts, and they should be going to the college ranks. This is a terrible organization right now. They're really bad at a lot of positions. They need to find their next coach who's a young upstart coach, somebody in the college ranks. Because, like you said, Ben Johnson is going to look at New England, who's a complete train wreck. Unless Ben Johnson is in love with the idea of coaching Drake May, why would he leave an offense with an established quarterback in Jared Goff, who's under contract, a two-headed monster in Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, both whom are under contract, I believe, and in his wide receiver core of Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, and then fill in whoever three. Right now, I think it's Patrick, but Tim Patrick, and also Hawkinson.
No,
Was it not
Laporta.
Hawkinson? Sorry, not
Laporta.
Hawkinson. Laporta. Sorry, Hawkinson was there. And Laporta. Why would you leave that situation to go to Drake May, Ramondre Stevenson, who can't stop fumbling the ball, Antonio Gibson, who's a gadget back? He's been good, but I mean, he's not either one of the guys he has right now. And then a receiving core of Jalen Polk, who can't figure out how to catch a ball, Javon Baker, who hasn't caught a ball, Kayshon Boutte, who's probably been the one bright spot there, and two aging tight ends, which Hunter Henry's under contract. Why can't I think of the other dude's name?
Hooper.
Austin Hooper, who I don't believe is under contract. So, like, why would you go from a concrete situation to a mess? You just wouldn't. It's not a smart play. You're going to have to get someone who has aspirations of being a head coach. So, my plan would be go to the college ranks, find an offensive-minded young head coach who likes Drake May, and say, we're going to build these two together, somebody who's offensive-minded, and then find a GM who kind of mixes with the same thing, because I don't think Elliott Wolf's the guy. You can't just hit on the first round pick every year and then miss on the rest of the draft.
No, there is coaches that like Drake May. Sean McVay came out and said, I didn't think that kid had that. I didn't watch a lot of tape of him coming out of college. We weren't looking to draft him, but man, that kid can play some football. He has talent to play football. You just need the right situation around him.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement. I was super down on Drake May, but after watching him play, I do think there's something there. I think but you need the right coach to coach that kid up. He's still making mistakes. The turnovers should be concerning to people. We're not going to turn a blind eye to it because he has a good arm. But like you've said, a lot of people said almost Josh Allen, like Josh Allen had turnover problems and it got fixed. Well, you have to have someone in place to fix those problems. And I don't think a first-year head coach who has a defensive mind, an offensive coordinator who it's his first time calling plays since the early 2000s, like that's not the guys to coach up a 22-year-old kid.
Oh, definitely not. And Van Pelt was the wrong guy. Came in with a zone run scheme that did not pan out the way we thought it was. And I thought they were going to be running a lot more this year, and they weren't. But you don't even have the right running back to run in that thing. Stevenson's not, like you said, fumbling problems and all that. He's not the right guy to be there. He can't be a legit one if you're going to fumble the ball 6 times a year. Like it's just not. It's not ideal for a situation.
And Steve says this all the time to us. You guys have to understand that the crafts don't pay, and he's not wrong. But the problem is when the crafts do pay, they pay the wrong guys. They pay guys like Duggar and Ramondre Stevenson. They're loyal to guys who they drafted, who are like average players in the league. Running backs, like the running back market might be redefined because of this past market. but even still, it's like you're looking at the draft coming up. You have guys like Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins and Ollie Gordon who are probably going to go late second round, third round, who are just as good, if not better, than Ramondre Stevenson. Now, we don't know that they're better in the NFL, but I mean, as far as coming out of college, I don't remember Ramondre Stevenson being a massive name coming out of college, right? He was just another, second or third day pick wherever he was picked. So I don't understand why you would then pay him. You choose to pay a running back when the rest of the league is not paying running backs. It's like now's the time to pay wide receivers and offensive linemen because you have a young quarterback. It's like give that kid help now so he gains that confidence. And then when it comes time for his big contract, he can hopefully be the guy that elevates others like Josh Allen. Josh Allen has one of the worst receiving cores in the league, I'd say, yet the Bills are fantastic. It's because Josh Allen makes those guys great.
No, he does. He carries everything on his back, and that's what you can see happening. I could see this happening 3 years from now if you get the right coaching with Drake May, that he's going to be carrying a team on his back until the situation is right for him. Now, we say he needs to be better with the right situation, but he's going to have growing pains, man. It's just how it is in the NFL. Sorry, Jalen Daniels went to a Washington team that was pretty set up to have a good run and got a great offensive coordinator at the same time.
Yeah.
I was looking at we were talking about a redraft thing in the text, and I was looking at a redraft thing, and it actually had May going 2 over Williams going 3 to us in the redraft.
Yeah.
And that's just how you see it. People think May is a better player than Caleb Williams at this point, and it's tough to say that.
It's tough to say that, and we're outside of Steve. You and I are down on Caleb Williams, and it's not because of stats. I actually think I have bias against Chicago. I think Caleb Williams, because you look at his numbers stacked up against Jaden Daniels, they're not far off. But there's something about the Chicago Bears. They stink offensively. It's like where offensive players go to die. And guys will still have good seasons, right? Like Keenan Allen's not having a statistically bad season. But DJ Moore is a guy who got the bag. And does he really stick out? If you off the top of your head, thought of the top 10 receivers in the league, is DJ Moore even sniffing that?
I want to say at 10 or lower. I mean, he is good, and he's not an average built for a receiver. He's smaller, and he still has over 1,000 yards right now. I mean, he's not that bad.
Okay, but my question to you is, when you think of the best receivers in the league, does DJ Moore come to mind? No, it's got to be Chicago. He doesn't have bad seasons, but realistically, okay, would you take Davante Adams over him?
No.
You wouldn't take Davante Adams over DJ Moore.
And then I'm saying this right now, and I'm only saying this right now. Davante Adams is a headache right now. He really is. He gets himself traded, doesn't want to be there, gets himself traded again. He starts having a bad start with the Jets, comes off later in the season. I don't need a guy that's going to be a headache in the locker room with a team that's already a headache in the locker room.
I'm asking you talent-wise, though.
Oh, okay. Talent-wise, yes, I'd take Adams over DJ Moore.
And that's what I'm saying. Randy Moss was a headache. Randy Moss was also, I think, the greatest wide receiver. He was better than Jerry Rice, if you ask me.
Oh, he is. He's the best ever.
Talent-wise, would you rather have Tyreek Hill?
Yes.
Talent-wise, would you rather have Jalen Waddle?
Oh, of course. He's young too.
Brown. AJ Brown.
Yep.
DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
Cooper Kupp.
Injuries scare me, but the talent-wise, yeah.
Puka Nacua.
Oh, he's a stud.
Mike Evans.
Older, but a stud still. He's about to hit 1,000 yards after missing, 7 games this year?
Yeah, Malik Nabers.
Oh, of course. That kid is he was one of the 1,000-yard receivers for rookies this year. That kid's a bona fide stud.
Brian Thomas Jr.
I'd take him too.
Justin Jefferson.
Oh, of course.
Jamar Chase.
Of course.
T. Higgins.
I think I'd take more over Higgins right now.
Okay, but even still, I just named 10 off the top of my head. I was just rolling around the
Yeah,
league.
you roll. Yeah,
with that.
you're right. You're right. You're right.
You know
You're
what I
right.
mean? Like DJ Moore, and he has good seasons. It's the Chicago. I really think it's a Chicago bias because Chicago is historically a defensive team. So I think when players go there, and that's probably my problem too, because if you ask me Jaden Daniels or Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, no problem. If you ask me Drake May or Caleb Williams, I say Drake May. But then you stack up their stats. Drake May can't stop giving away the ball, and Caleb Williams does not give away the ball. He's only got 5 picks.
No, you're right. But again, he also has more talent on his team. Bad coaching, but better talent.
Yeah, and I think the bar was set before the season even started. When he was at USC, people were already crowning him. They were saying this kid, he's NFL ready. He's can't miss. You know what I mean? He's generational talent. He goes there, and I guess in my mind, I was expecting a lot more from him. And when it didn't transpire. It's like, I don't know. I kind of was expecting somebody who was really good. I mean, I think you and Steve had Chicago pretty high on
I had him like 11 in my power rankings or 12. Yeah,
dude. I don't know that I'm right. I wish Steve was here to correct me, but I feel like Steve had him in the top 10, like 9.
he very well could have. I know I had him out of the top 10, but still in the top 15 because I thought they still could be a playoff team with all the stuff they added. Their coaching is just so a mess. It's
Yeah,
such a mess.
I'm not patting myself on the back at all. I had him at 21, and it was solely because I was like, I don't trust that a rookie. And then, but you guys had him so high. I'm like, boy, maybe I'm way off here. Like that that this is a better product because they did bring in all that talent. But if that's a scenario where it shows you that coaching can really make the difference because Matt Eberflus is an idiot.
Oh yeah, I think the only one I got right out of my power rankings, besides some of the top teams, I think the only one I got right that I jumped up before everybody else was Pittsburgh.
Yeah, you had Pittsburgh, although Pittsburgh's kind of falling flat now.
They are, but they still had a winning thing, and they still made the play. They're still making the playoffs. So
I mean, I think we got plenty right. I mean, you weren't going to get the Chiefs wrong. You know, we weren't going to get Buffalo wrong. But I'm talking about surprise teams because even like I can sit here and say, oh, I was right about San Francisco. I had them at 6. I mean, they're at the back half of the league right now.
Yeah, I had them at 2. So yeah, I'm an idiot.
You know, but so am I. Like I had them in the top 10. Like being top 10 in the league is you're a good team, I would assume. You know, and I'm really disappointed in Cincy right now because had Cincy not lost some of these early weak games, like this shows you that when the early part of the season can make a difference. Losing to the Patriots killed them.
Oh, it did because their team, if they were to go to the playoffs right now, I'd be even though their defense is awful, I'd be scared to play them in the playoffs.
They should be. And Kansas City now decides their fate. And you know Kansas City's not playing starters today, and they're playing Denver. Denver wins and they're in. If Denver does, I believe Denver has to lose for Cincy to be in, or is it Denver and Miami?
So Denver can win or lose. It was what I saw. So Denver can win or lose as long as Miami loses. The Bengals are in. So Miami would have. I believe that's what I saw last week. It would have to be Miami losing, and then since Denver can win or lose, but it all decides on the Miami game.
Yeah. Okay, because I know since he won, so their playoff hopes are alive.
Yes.
So essentially, is it Denver and Miami have to lose for Cincy to get in?
I thought it was just Denver could win or lose, and Miami had to lose. But if Denver wins, you might be right. Denver might be in. I don't know if it changed. I think maybe I saw it before last week's games. So maybe it is Denver the deciding factor here. But that would be a shame because, like I said, it just sucks how it plays out because Cincinnati's, their offense is legit. I mean, Jamar Chase, 1,700 yards, 17 touchdowns. He was a triple crown for the wide receivers this year.
Yeah. So it is. I just looked it up just quickly so we could get it. They need Denver and Miami to lose.
Okay. All right.
But here's the thing. KC's playing Denver and KC's playing all backups. Miami, on the other hand, decided to sit Tua.
Well, I think they don't want him to get that. They don't want him getting hurt. I think they figured out that they're not going to go anywhere in the playoffs anyway if they made it.
I don't think so. I think if they didn't want him to get hurt, they would have never had him come back. I think there's a bigger issue at play. I don't have inside knowledge, but excuse me, if this was about health, wouldn't this have taken place earlier in the season? If Miami was just these good guys and they cared about their players' health, he wouldn't have been playing since, he came back, since he was cleared. They would have said, listen, take the rest of the year off. You're in playoff contention. You can potentially make the playoffs. Even in a down year, they're still paying, you're still paying all these guys, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Ramsey, Tua. There's a lot of money being paid. And when you make the playoffs, that's extra revenue for your team. So you're telling me out of the goodness of their hearts now, with the playoffs on the line, they sit Tua? I don't buy it. I think there's something much bigger going on. I think Tua's done in Miami.
I think Mike McDaniel might be done in Miami.
If they don't make the playoffs, sure. But I think the bigger issue is Tua. I think Tua is done in Miami. I think they paid him. They got into a contract dispute. They paid him. They didn't put a concussion clause in there. Now he's got another concussion under his belt after this season. But I think there's a bigger underlying issue here with this team. Tyreek Hill wants out.
Oh, he's been saying that for like 5 weeks now. He's done. He's all set.
So I think there's a way bigger issue going on down there in Miami. To bench your starting quarterback who you paid in the final week of the season when you still can make the playoffs. Now, again, they need help too. Denver controls their own fate. If Denver can beat the Kansas City B team, they're in.
Yeah, okay. So they just need to win for them to be in.
Yeah, but why bench your quarterback who you paid? This is the whole reason to pay a quarterback is that's your guy of the future. They paid Tua, and now you bench him with the playoffs on the line.
Yeah, no, it doesn't make sense. I didn't even think of that, but I thought maybe it was just they didn't have a chance in the playoffs. Why bother starting them? But if it, that's just a really tough situation. It really is. I know that they can't go far in the playoffs. I already know that. So why bother fighting for it? Are they trying to save draft stock and lose today and trying to get a different pick so they can trade up for a quarterback and get rid of Tua, like you're saying? Like there's a whole scenario that can be walked around this, and it's tough to figure out because you don't know what's going to happen.
All right. Well, now that we're kind of talking. This is I told you beforehand, I had a little game I wanted to play with you. I wasn't going to tell you what it is, but we've kind of led into it. This is the playoff edition. These are all the teams still alive, and I want you to know, are they NFL contenders or pretenders to win the Super Bowl?
All right.
So we'll just start in the AFC. These are the 9 AFC teams still alive statistically. Number 1, Kansas City, contender or pretender to win the Super Bowl?
I'm still going to call them a contender just because they went 50. They won 15 games with a lot of help, but you don't know what Pat Mahomes is going to do in the playoffs, so they're contender.
I'm in agreement with you. I wanted to call them pretenders, but they've won already. They're a championship DNA team, and they know how to turn it on and off. And I still believe that all those guys have gas on the tank. My only real issue is they're going to get the week off this week and then a bye week. They're not going to play competitive football for 3 weeks. We used to see what that happened to the Colts.
I mean, we saw what happened with in the college football bracket, how it happened. So it's
every team that had a bye week lost.
Yeah.
Including Stevie, RIP Georgia Bulldogs. Moment of silence. All right, moment's done. But yes, I agree with you. Kansas City, I wanted to say pretenders, but we'll see how they've won so much that maybe the week off and the bye week won't hurt them. But I'll be interested to see what they do when they finally play, because you're going to be 3 weeks removed from competitive football.
I mean, last week, Mahomes turned it on last week. He played the best game he did all season last week.
All right. Well, Buffalo.
Oh, they're Super Bowl contender.
Super Bowl contender. They could win the Super Bowl. Absolutely. Number 3, Baltimore.
They're a contender.
Okay. We're in agreement so far. I'm not going to stop and go on diatribes when we agree. 4, Houston.
Not a contender.
Pretender. I agree completely. 5, Pittsburgh.
Not a contender.
I agree. Pretender. Number 6, Los Angeles Chargers.
They're sneaky, man. I kind of like them right now with Harbaugh and them. I'm gonna say Super Bowl contender. I'm just gonna go out of my way on it.
I had them as a contender too.
Oh, okay, all right.
At the beginning of the season, I was down on them. I had Herbert in my duds for a while. They've come on. Jim Harbaugh, like him or not, he knows what he's doing as a coach. He's a good coach.
He can coach, man.
I would. I mean, can I be honest? I hate the Chargers as a franchise. I just think they're just like a second-rate franchise. But man, seeing back-to-back national championship, Super Bowl championship for Harbaugh and Blake, as he was, Blake's in the Rams. Disregard. But just my man Harbaugh, back-to-back champions, I'd be okay with it. All right, 7, Denver.
Pretender.
Agree, pretender. Number 8 right now is Miami.
They're a pretender.
They might be the biggest pretender of all. I think they have the least, like they got to be the worst odds. And number 9, Cincinnati.
If they get into the playoffs, they're a Super Bowl contender.
I agree completely. I think that's a hot team. They remind me of like the Giants. Those years they beat the Patriots. Like they were buzzsaw, hot at the right time. But now it's a matter of they need help. They need KC's B squad to beat Denver, and they need Miami to throw up on themselves as well. So, but they are absolutely a contender. If you're any other team in the division, you have to hope Cincinnati doesn't get in because they've been hot. They've been red hot lately.
And Joe Burrow is like that guy, man. He could play football. Like I've been saying it all year. It's not Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. That guy could play fucking football, buddy.
Joe Burrow at this, like he's not going to win the MVP especially if they don't get into the playoffs. He doesn't win the MVP. If they get into the playoffs, you can definitely make an argument for it. But is he the best quarterback in the league right now?
I think he is.
Because the argument would be between probably the big 4, the Mount
Allen, Mahomes,
Lamar.
Burrow, and Jackson. Yep.
Yeah, so those are the big 4 right now. If you ask, I think most people.
You know what's crazy? All 4 of them are in the AFC.
Yeah, no, I agree. And like Jared Goff's not far off. He's he's great in Detroit, but he doesn't hold a candle to those guys. You know what I mean? So that's the AFC. NFC's a little different here. So not really different, but only one of these teams can lock in the 4 spot. So number 1's Detroit.
They're a Super Bowl contender.
Absolutely. Number 2, Philadelphia.
Super Bowl contender.
Absolutely. Number 3, the Los Angeles Rams.
They're not a Super Bowl contender.
I agree. Pretender. So number 4 is either Tampa Bay or Atlanta. So we'll start with Tampa.
I think they're a contender.
I think they're a pretender. I think we disagree there. I think they can make. I just don't think they have the bullets to get all the way to the Super Bowl. They made last year's. They made it pretty deep last year. They're not going to do it. Or Atlanta in the 4 seed.
Oh no, they're both pretenders.
Yeah, pretender. Number 5, Minnesota.
See, I wish today's game was yesterday. Because it all depends on if they could beat Detroit. If you can't beat Detroit in your divisional game, in your rivalry game, then no, you're a pretender.
But right now, where do you have them?
I have them as a Super Bowl contender.
I agree. Super Bowl contender. Washington.
I think they're a Super Bowl contender.
I think they're a pretender in their first year. There's not a situation in which I can see Washington beating Kansas City, Buffalo, Baltimore, Chargers, or even the Bengals.
We're saying that about the AFC, but they can make it to the Super Bowl. Jalen Daniels, man, that kid can play football. He's an end of game playing football player too.
I think the playoffs are a different animal. I think that they are a pretender to win the Super Bowl. I don't think they can do it.
Okay.
And Green Bay finally.
Oh, I think they're a pretender right now.
And that's where we disagree. I think they're a contender. I'm high on Jordan Love, even though he hasn't. I thought he was going to be in the MVP race, but maybe barring injury, who knows? But I think they're a contender. It's Green Bay. Green Bay's the mecca of football.
Okay.
All right. Well, that's it for contenders and pretenders. In the comments, everybody let us know what you think, pretenders and contenders. But now let's talk strictly Patriots for a minute before we move on to the NBA. Do you want them to lose today to secure that number 1 pick?
I want the Patriot. I want them to lose today to secure the 1 pick. I need the draft stock, buddy. I want them to trade out of the number 1 pick.
Okay, and that was my next question. So if they have the number 1 pick, do you want them to take Travis Hunter or trade down? Trade down, obviously.
Well, see, even if they trade down to 4, I think you have a chance to get Travis Hunter.
Do you want Travis Hunter?
So I remember I sent you guys something the other day, and I see certain things, and it makes me wish that maybe this would be the right thing. But if we got T. Higgins, and then you got Travis Hunter, who is he is a legitimate athlete. The guy can play 2 sides of the ball. I don't think he is a bad pick. At 1, I would not pick Travis Hunter at number 1. At 4 or 5, if he's there with no legitimate tackles. Like Campbell said, you let up 12 sacks. The guy from LSU, you let up 12 sacks, you're not considered an offensive tackle in the NFL. But if you get 12 sacks as the D lineman, you're considered the number 1 person in the world to go into the draft. He made the right case. So I would say that I would pick Hunter. I would pick Hunter at 4 or 5.
Okay, 4 or 5, maybe. I'm still out on Hunter because I'm not going to play a guy 2 ways. Not a legitimate first-round pick stud. I don't want a 2-way player there, only because now he's got double the chance to get hurt. He's not an overly big guy. I would stick him at corner or wide receiver, whatever he really wanted to play in the NFL, or what I valued him as, which for me would be a cornerback. I don't want another corner. We just got Christian Gonzalez 2 years ago. I am building my offensive line. Now, we did talk about the idea. You floated the idea of Devontae Smith.
I did, and I say that because I saw a stat the other day where he's been with the Eagles for 4 or 5 years now, and he's never made a Pro Bowl. But the guy can play football. But you have so much talent in Philly, like so much around the whole team, that you don't need him to be the number 1 receiver in your team right now. I think he can be a number 1 at another team, even with the frame and all that. The kid can catch the ball. He can run routes. He can do everything. I think that is an idea that they should run by everybody if you're going in that room right now, because why wouldn't you want to get him on that? What is he getting paid right now? You said the other day he's getting paid.
He's under contract till 2028, and I believe his AAV is $25 million.
Okay, so that's not a bad deal.
I don't think it's a bad deal. I think if I would be not against it, but this would be my plan of attack from the Patriots. If my plan is to get Devontae Smith, first of all, the price has to be right trade-wise. And I'm not giving them the number 1 overall pick for Devontae Smith. It's not happening. Do I want to give up the 33rd pick in the draft for him? I don't want to. I don't know that I would either. But if I can maybe massage them into 3s, or maybe next year's 2 and this year's 3, I don't really want to give up a second, but I'm okay with that. And then you can trade back from 1, restock some draft capital, still move back, like you said, to that 4 or 5 range. And then I go get Tet out of Arizona. Now I have 2 wide receivers for Drake May to throw to, and then you can stick either Booty, Demario Douglas, whoever you want in that slot position, probably Demario Douglas, but I do like Kayshon Booty. Then I try to build an offensive line, because there's some offensive line that are sitting at the back half of the first, or maybe the front half of the second. Now I start building my offensive line, and then in round 3, I look and see if Ollie Gordon's there, Quinshon Judkins is there, Travion Henderson's there, even Scatterbo, if he's there, because I don't like Ramondre Stevenson either. I don't.
I'd take Scatterbo, bro. That guy's a bona fide carry on my back kind of guy.
But I would take one of these guys. Who cares? Running backs are a mix and match, like plug and play guy. So if I can get somebody who's really good in college and put them in my backfield. But like Ramondre is still going to be your number one probably, but maybe this guy takes over as your number one. Like especially Ollie Gordon was supposed to have a monster year. Quinshon Judkins is an absolute beast. Like you get these guys in your backfield. Well, now I can start coming. You start seeing an offensive being built if you go get Tet, offensive lineman, running back to mix with Drake May, because I'm sorry, but this is a league that doesn't care about defense anymore. You already have Christian Gonzalez. You have Christian Barmore. You drafted Keon White. Like, you just need a good defensive scheme at this point because you can't hand check. You can't really hit guys anymore. You can't spear them. So at some point, you got to bring in an offensive mind and you have to build an offense. And why not go get offensive talent that was in the NCAA?
No, I agree. There's a lot of things that can be done and worked with what we have going on. If we get the number one pick, there's a lot of money that we have. There's a lot of draft capital we can get. If you can get 3 picks, two for this year, one for next year for that number one pick, you're setting yourself up for success as a GM. Now, do you want Elliott Wolf making those draft picks is another question.
No.
But
no.
It's a situation that there's a situation that you need to think about when you do stuff.
And the other thing I would do too is I would not be starting May this afternoon. I know what I've seen from May. I like what I've seen from May. I would start Joe Milton and see if he deserves a roster spot.
Well, they're talking about they were talking about it the other day, saying that May is probably going to start. That Milton has gotten a lot of first team reps this week. I'd start Milton just to lose the game. You don't know you don't know what he's going to do. You don't know if he could win a game right now. It's just where I want it to be. I want that number one pick.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I don't start Drake May because this is a nothing game, and it's nothing to the Bills either. Allen's going to start to keep his streak alive, but he could be out after the first drive. You know what I mean? They're just getting him this start streak to keep going. I don't care about a start streak. I don't care that Drake May started for a little. Like, just put in Joe Milton. I just want to see if Joe Milton deserves a roster spot or if he's a guy you can just move on from. Like, we know he's probably fun and a gadget player. He's already a little bit older. He came into the league in his mid-20s. He's not quite as old as 40-year-old Bo Nix, but he's old. Older as far as a rookie. Just see if he deserves a roster spot. If not, you can cut bait with him. You know what I mean?
Agree.
Other than that, the games that you're looking forward to this weekend, right? I want to see what Atlanta does with Carolina and Tampa Bay with New Orleans, only because that decides that NFC South spot. Those two games mean something. And Carolina has kind of played better as of late.
I was going to say that. They played way better as of late.
You know what I mean? Can Bryce Young play spoiler against young Michael Penix? And then Tampa Bay, they need this. We got to see if Mike Evans can get another 1,000-yard season, which that would bring him to 11 straight 1,000-yard
11 straight with like 7 games missed this year,
which is insane. Like, he's so good. He's like jumping up the list of like greatest of all time status. Like,
I think you mean I think it said what they said was in bonus money just this week alone, between touchdowns, receptions, and receiving yards, he could hit like 3 million. Yeah. And Baker Mayfield, I'm going to get my guy his money. And he's going to be throwing the ball all game.
If you're a gambler, you got to bet heavy on Mike Evans this week. And then also the 8:20 game tonight, the Minnesota-Detroit game is, what a way to end the season, right? There's no Monday night this week. So this is the culmination of the regular season. You put Minnesota-Detroit both sitting at 14-2. This is the difference between being number one and being, I think, number like 5 or 6.
I think it was. I thought it was 5. But either way, it's a big game for that to happen in a playoff.
And then obviously we get New England Buffalo. We're interested because we want the number one pick at this point. But the Jets can play spoiler to Miami, and Kansas City's B team against Denver. Denver needs to take care of business. Now, so there is some still good football today.
Now, do you think Denver, if they lose to the B team of the Chiefs, does it just go to show you how good Andy Reid is as a coach? Or do you think it has to do with just the championship caliber team that they could be?
I think if the B team beats Denver, It's probably a number of things. It's a rookie quarterback going, but he's got a home game, but it's a rookie quarterback in a learning experience. Like, you don't have to be down if you're Denver and you don't win, but I think it does show you, like, that's what a championship team does. Even their backups are ready to go.
Oh, exactly.
Big game tonight too at 3:30 that no one's talking about except for us right now because it's the final week of the season. Boston OKC and OKC at 3:30.
Someone wrote, I don't know who it was, what NBA player said it, but they said Shea Glorious Alexander is the hardest guy to guard in the NBA right now.
Dude, the guy's a beast. He really is. This is how I'm going to transition to the NBA for the last 15 minutes of the show here, because Celtics talk, it kind of gets overshadowed during the NFL season, but the NBA, after the NFL, it's really all we'll care about. I know we watch hockey, not as much. We barely talk hockey here because none of us are hockey savants, but the Celtics right now, I think they have the easiest path to the NBA Finals.
They have the easiest path to the NBA Finals.
And the reason I say that, even though they're behind Cleveland in the rankings, and they were 5-5 in their last 10 a few days ago, and they haven't played as well as they can. They're the only team with any championship DNA. In the last 10 years, the only Eastern Conference teams to win titles are the Celtics, Bucks, Raptors, and Cavs. The Cavs literally have 0 players on that team that won a championship. The Raptors have 7 wins this season, so I'm not concerned about them. The Bucks have 5 current players on the team who have a championship, Giannis being the most important, but Pat Connaughton, Chris Milton, Bobby Portis, Brook Lopez. This is set up for them to win. Anybody who thinks that they look kind of bad lately and they're not in first, I think this is a team that sleepwalks right to the playoffs.
Yeah, and they're talking about, and the Celtics are, there's rumors going around that they're talking about getting Lonnie Walker again.
I did hear that too.
Adding that depth, I think, would help the Celtics right now. They could sleep and still make the playoffs because they're that good of a team. But when they need to play, they're playing basketball, man, because Peyton Pritchard is the 6th man of the year, hands down. Derek White is shooting lights out. I actually saw a thing they said about Pritchard. If he doesn't go to the 3-point contest, they're gonna riot.
Yeah.
Right thing. But they have legitimate players in this team that could ball out. And Tatum is still Tatum, Brown's still Brown, Porzingis is still Porzingis, but their supporting cast is better than everybody in the NBA.
Yeah, and in years past, it hasn't mattered because their supporting cast was better than everyone else's, but their starting lineup wasn't as good as everyone else's. So it's like, we have depth. Well, now you go, dude, Tatum, Brown, Porzingis, White, and Holiday have only played together. They've only started together 8 or 9 times. This is a really deadly team. This is really just set up for them to go back to back.
Yep, and I can't wait till it happens because at least I have something to look forward to as a Boston fan. We sit there and talk about the Celtics, and we sit there and see, they're going down. They look like frauds? Are they just not playing anything? I don't think they need to play all out all season to go far into the playoffs. I don't think they need to.
Yeah. And the thing that drives me crazy is the Jason Tatum hate just still is there. And people say he's great because he's on this team. The guy is averaging 28-9. In his career, he averages 23-7. So he's averaging better than his career numbers. You know what I mean? He's still young. He's still, what's he, 25, 26 years old still?
I think he's 25.
He's 26. I just looked it up. He's March 3rd, 1998 was his birthday. So he's 26 years old. He's got a championship under his belt. He's at 28-9-6 right now for his stats. He's shooting 46%. And people still say he's not that good.
Nope. He is what you call every year you see someone get hate. He's the one that's going to get hated on the most right now because he just won a championship. When you look at it the way I look at it, hate him all you want because it makes him play better. It's that Kobe-esque in him. That black mama mentality. Oh, you guys think I'm sucking right now? Watch, he's going to go drop 35 tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's just how it is. Now Brown hasn't been playing as much as of late either for this team. I think he missed the last 2 games, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And you add all the pieces together come playoff time, you have nothing to be worried about. I think Tatum is still in the MVP conversation. Shea
He is.
Glorious Alexander might win the MVP this year, which sucks for me because I put a bet on Tatum. But but that kid he is up there. He's one of the top 5 players in the NBA.
Yeah, he gets overlooked in that conversation because of the team he's on. But like Shea Gilgeous Alexander has a really good team too. I mean, granted they're not as good as the Celtics, but I mean OKC still has talent on that roster. Giannis will get votes, Jokic will get votes, but I think Tatum should be the MVP because Tatum, I think, does everything for the Celtics. And I really believe that he's a guy, and his stats are there, but he's a guy that on a night where Jaylen Brown's hot, he knows to feed Jaylen Brown. He doesn't have to score 20 points to even matter in a game. He'll play good defense. He'll rebound for a whole game. When Porzingis was out, Tatum was their primary rebounder. So it's like, I'm sorry, but this guy does everything for that team. And I think if you take him off that team, they don't become a bad team, but I don't think they're the same team. I don't think they're the same threat. If Jason Tatum tore his ACL and was out for the season, I don't think you look at the Celtics as the favorite anymore.
No, you don't look at the same. You can't look at them the same. You need Tatum to be what you are.
And that to me is the true measure of how great he really is. Even on a great team, he alters the dynamic whether he's there or not.
Yeah, and he doesn't need to score to be the best player on the team going into playoffs. We saw that last year.
Yeah,
he needs to be a better team play. He can be a better team player for them to win, and that's what you need in a star player.
I completely agree with you, and the hate that comes his way is crazy. I do want to talk about before we go off the air here, because there's a player I really like in the NBA, and I just feel like the Washington Wizards might be the worst professional sports franchise right now since 2017, 2018. I just wanted to talk about this because we're talking about really good players. They're 224 and 360. Dude, can they move Jordan Poole? I think Jordan Poole's a really good player. Where should Jordan Poole go in the NBA?
Where should he go?
If you were where would you like to see him? I should say.
So I'm not gonna say Celtics because that makes me a guy. But if I'm gonna say
he can't come here anyway, he's too expensive.
If I'm gonna think of a contending team, I'd want him to go to send him back to Golden State.
That's not where I want him to go.
Where do you want him to go?
San Antonio.
Oh, Victor.
Pair him up with Wemby. They're in contention. They're 18-7. Give this kid a chance to win. They gave up on him in Golden State way too early. But now I hate Washington. What a crap franchise that is.
Yeah.
Give Poole a superstar to be next to, which Wemby is right now, and see if they mesh. I mean, and Chris Paul's there. Chris Paul's an older vet who controls the ball, and just give him a structured, good team, and maybe he can do something.
So, I hear you say the older vet look at things, but if you look at that thing that makes players better, Russell Westbrook, if he starts for Denver, they're 9-1 over Murray. If you have Poole going with Chris Paul, who is a legit leader, doesn't need to do what he does and passes the ball, and you got Victor there, that's a real team right there. That's not a bad idea.
If I was San Antonio, I would, because NBA picks mean nothing at this point. The NBA draft is trash at this point too. We're picking G League guys, we're picking guys from Europe. Everything feels developmental. Guys come out after 1 year, they're 19, they're not physically ready or physically mature to play, NBA players. So they don't mature for a few years anyway. Honestly, the NBA draft has become investing. We'll just invest this pick in this guy and hopefully he works out. Very, very few guys come out of the NBA draft and you just think he's ready, good to go. I mean, there's not too many Lucas coming out of the draft anymore or LeBron. No.
If you think of Victor too, of how good he is at coming out of the draft where he was drafted and all this, he has in his 2 or 3 years he's been in the NBA, whatever it is, He has more 3-point shots than Steph Curry, more blocks than Hakeem Olajuwon, and more points that I believe I want to say it was Jordan is what it was. All around stuff, not like seasonal stuff, but less like points in general, blocks in general, and 3 points in general. He has more stats than all three of those players.
Yeah. Yeah, and Wemby again. Wemby's an anomaly. When you look at 2024 NBA draft, Zachary Rezaker, Alex Sarr, Reed Shepard, Stephon Castle, Ron Holland. That's your top 5 picks this past year. 2023, you have Victor Wembanyama. Then you have Brandon Miller, Scoot Henderson, Amon Thompson, Osor Thompson. Like, yeah, you know who Scoot Henderson is. Is he making any sort of difference in Portland right now? No. Brandon Miller's been pretty good, in Charlotte. Is Charlotte good? No. Victor's good. Finally, the Spurs, they're in the 9th. They're 18-17. It's not like he's made, like, guys aren't making a difference like they were. Paulo Banchero, he's good. Chet Holmgren, Jabari Smith, Keegan Murray, Jaden Ivey. Those guys right now, like Jaden Ivey, who's hurt now, but those 5 right there, maybe minus Keegan Murray's pretty good, but he's a role player. Jabari Smith, role player. Chet Holmgren's good. But those guys were drafted in 2022. Those aren't what we call an investment. They matured 3 years later.
Nope. We got 5 minutes left. I got to ask you this. I wish Steve was on the podcast for this. Jimmy Butler.
Oh, God.
Getting suspended for 7 games over nothing. Him just bitching. Well, it was bitching and complaining and stuff like that. I get it. Yeah. But do you think that he is forcing his way out of the NBA, or is it just him forcing his way out of Miami?
I think this is a mess between both of them. He could very well be he won't be forcing his way out of the NBA, but he strikes me as a guy who just doesn't have it anymore anyway. Like, he hasn't been great in Miami. I know they love him. Playoff Jimmy. Steve will cut you down on Twitter if you engage with him, or X, I should say. He could be forcing his way out of the NBA because he's becoming a headache. Like, even like Harden, Westbrook, all of a sudden these guys, like, and Harden's still good, but they just become mercenaries and they just go to a team until they wear their welcome out there. Like, what a mess for both teams. If you want to trade Jimmy Butler, why do you want to trade him on the heels of a 7-game suspension? If you're Miami, like, you make him look like a bigger problem. Now another team might have some trepidation. Like, I don't know, they just had to suspend him because he wasn't happy. Why the hell would I want him here? And then where does he go? You have to find a team to match money. I don't know. Where do you think you could see him going?
I honestly, I don't know, because I wouldn't want the headache, and that's my problem.
It's going to be what team can match money and afford them. So, first of all, if you're a top tier, if you're Cleveland, Boston, New York, the answer is no, right? Why would you? First of all, New York spent all kinds of money to get all the guys they wanted there. They built Villanova, basically, with Karl Anthony Towns. Boston definitely doesn't want them, and they're so far over the threshold that they couldn't have them. In Cleveland, why would you want to mess up the chemistry? You're 30-4 right now. Why do you want to bring Jimmy Butler in there?
You think of the teams that possibly goes to, you could think Philly being one of them.
He's not going back to Philly. Him and Embiid, I think, hate each other.
I know, but I'm just saying, it's a team that would try to go for him. I think the Lakers would probably try to shoot for him.
Yeah, that's what team. That team's run by LeBron. LeBron loves superstar names. The problem with the Lakers are, because you can go into the NBA trade machine, they don't have their high priced players are like LeBron and Anthony Davis. Other than that, you'd have to package up like 5 guys.
Yeah, and they already traded D'Lo.
Yeah,
back to Brooklyn. So it's hard to figure out. Do you think Denver could be in play for it, or the Mavs?
That's another team, because maybe you could move Michael Porter or Jr. or Aaron Gordon. I don't know exactly what their salaries, but I know they make money. Houston, maybe, because I think Houston's really good this year. They're 22-12. They're sitting at the 2nd seed. And they have a lot of young talent on their team. So maybe you could package up young talent with maybe older. I'd have to look at their numbers, but that Houston could be a team. Denver, the Lakers, maybe the Clippers.
I was going to say maybe the Clippers.
Golden State. It's going to be a fringe team. He's not going back to Minnesota. He's not going back to Chicago. He's not going back to Philly. Detroit, maybe. I doubt.
You think Phoenix? You think Phoenix could be one?
unless they're going to move on from Bradley Beal already, but Phoenix is out of the playoff mix. Would you want to add Jimmy Butler to that team with, Kevin Durant and Devin Booker? Because you can't add him. I don't think financially you can add him to that team. You'd have to give up one of Beal, Booker, and Durant. It ain't going to be Booker.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Unless you're going to move a bunch of small contracts too. You know what I mean? Like you'd have to, again, it's those matching money, trade 4 or 5 guys. I don't know what their exemptions look like. We know that money in the NBA is fake anyway. But the bottom line is you have to move a lot of money because Jimmy Butler, I think, is somewhere between 35 and 40 million per year.
Yeah.
So it's probably either a fringe team or a bottom half team in either division. And like I said, I don't think it's going to be Philly, Chicago, or Minnesota. So, Atlanta, Indiana, Detroit, like Brooklyn's 3.5 out, maybe Brooklyn.
Okay.
Where's Butler from?
I don't even know.
That could play into, I'll look it up real quick, but that could play into where maybe he wants to play. Is he in New York? I'm going to look once I get it up here. So he played college at Marquette. I'm not seeing where he's from, and I don't know offhand. Let's see. Jimmy Butler. Oh, he's from Houston, so maybe he wants to play in Houston.
I've heard Houston's name get floated around for him anyway, like you said. So,
well, Houston's one of those teams that they're a young team, so they might actually have draft capital to be able to take on his contract and not have to money match. They might be able to give up somebody who's $20 million per season. Again, I don't know what Houston's salary cap looks like right now. You can easily go to this ESPN trade machine and I'll go take a look at it. But that is a team that potentially I could see that happening. Let's see. NBA trade machine, add a team. Yes, I understand that. So Houston is they have minus 19 million in cap room. So Fred VanVleet is 42 million per year. So Dylan Brooks is 22 million. So you probably have to convince Miami to take Fred VanVleet for Jimmy Butler because Butler's 48 million.
Yeah, he's up there.
So Fred VanVleet, who's worth 13.8 points per game, and Jimmy Butler's 24.3. Statistically, they don't match up. Butler's but both of them have 2 years left on their deal. And if you try this trade on the trade machine, it's successful. So you can actually move just those 2 players for themselves in the NBA trade machine on ESPN.com. It makes Miami minus 14 wins better. It makes Houston plus 7 wins better. So You really have to sell Fred VanVleet and probably a bunch of draft picks for Jimmy Butler. But that's something that is probably like that one of the likely scenarios, maybe.
Yep. No. Okay. I just had to ask because I wish Steve was on here for this because he'd be going on a rant on it. So.
Oh, absolutely. But that's probably going to do it for us today. That we are the Boston Boys Sports podcast. Check us out on X. Check us out on Instagram. We are at Hub Boys Sports. Also, we are partnered with Jones & For Sports. We make sports better. Check them out on X. Check them out on Twitter. Check them out on Instagram. And like I said, that's going to do it for us. Kiefer, last words, buddy.
Number 1 pick, baby. Let's lose to the Bills.
Absolutely. I don't think we stand a chance against the Bills anyway. So I'm with you. Let's go get the number 1 pick. Let's trade it. Let's finally build an actual roster that can compete.
Agreed.
All right, buddy. Happy New Year, everybody out there. And we will be back again sometime next week.